Hello guys, and welcome to another tutorial video where we're going to be going over a flower farm. Now, I was looking through flower farms on the interweb. Found a good one by ilmango, but it was kind of very expensive and other flower farms didn't really give you the same kind of output that you kind of want in a short amount of time. So I did some tweaking to ilmango's design, which ilmango used a concept from Panic's video, which we're not going to use because we're just going to go straight into water streams. So let's take a little tour about this. Now, this is the starter. It's already on. It's already on. You don't have to do anything. It's on. But when you flick it off, the whole thing turns on. Now when you do that, you stop the clock, which flicks this redstone dust on and off just a little bit when there's no items in this hopper, right? And it goes into this. And then we extend the redstone line. We extend the redstone pulse because if it's a 1-tick pulse here, it will not power any of this. It has to be a 2-tick pulse, and it goes into this redstone pulse extender, which powers and unpowers these set of trapdoors, which let the water flow for just a good amount of time for the flowers to flow into the collection stream, which they go into an item sorter and flush all the way down. And at the start, there are two different functions here. This function powers this, which, when you unpower this, this will be unpowered, which means the observer doesn't send a pulse anywhere. But when you repower it, when you want to shut it off, it sends another pulse into this line, which repowers the water thing, so that if it's on a cycle where there are items still popping off and landing on here, the water will flush the remaining amount of items into this water stream to the item sorter. Now, the other thing that it does is that it powers this repeater, which powers into this redstone torch, which powers this piston. Now the piston runs a clock. It goes into an observers that are facing each other. It pushes this one into that one, creating their own redstone clock. And then it goes into this block. Now this block connects to the dispenser, which is in the center of this grid. This is a 7x9 grid. So it goes into this block, which powers this repeater and this repeater at the same time. This is a 2-ticks, this is a 4-ticks. You can swap the ticket if you want. It doesn't really matter. We go into a powered rail line, which is read by an observer, which goes into a redstone dust and powers this block. Now these blocks are the piston pushers. Now what does it do? So when this redstone line gets powered, it sends a signal to this block, which powers the whole rail above here. And these observers detect that change, and they power this block. Now this block quasi-powers the pistons next to it, with the exception of the pistons right underneath the observer powering the block, because that's just regularly powered. And this is the same for both sides. So now we got the dispenser here, which has all the bone meal, and then you run 2 lines of hoppers. You can build it on either side. It just depends on which way you build the item sorter in case you want to have everything pretty compact. This double chest feeds all the bone meal. And if you want, I marked over here the most item sorters you need for seeds, which is just 8. So you can convert all that. You can move all the seeds in here into a composter, right? And it will keep creating bone meal. And then you can feed a hopper line all the way over here, that which the bone meal is collected from the composters, and then do a quick item elevator up to here so that you can constantly feed bone meal, or you can do an item elevator up to here if you want to. And that's basically the rundown of this whole farm. It's pretty nice in my opinion. I'll show you how fast this farm runs now. Then we turn it off, and the remaining get flushed out. For this kind of farm, I'm not gonna really make a tutorial on how to build it. You can just look at the world download if you want to use it. The world download should be a lot better than me explaining how to really build it, because everything I've explained everything that works on in here. You just have to put the pieces together how you see fit, and you can even copy the design, right? There's not much I can say than have fun building it. So this was just some testing here. This is not needed, but this was just to test if there were any extra items not getting into the system, and we got a string and an observer which powers this thing, and if it ever happens once, then the redstone block pushes over and lights the light. So this technically isn't part of the design. Let's go over the rates of this farm. Now, just due to this testing, I kind of have a good idea of the layout here. So when you're bone mealing this part, right, you're bone mealing this grass right here, which has a dispenser underneath. So that means that when the bone meal gets applied, it applies going out in a radius. And in Panic's video, he goes over the chances of something spawning on the side of the grass, and we kind of just want to do it as much as we can. So this technically is a 7x10 platform, but only one block is going to be out of the way, and that's where the pistons are going to push, so they'll never get anything on them. So the chances of it coming out to a block further is kind of null. So that's why we don't make it a little bit larger than it has to be. So at this rate, you're going to see the proportions of this farm are kind of wonky. I just chose a random spot in this flower forest world. So yeah, this is what I came up with. So you're going to have to bone meal each part of this grass, this grassy area, to get a feel of how many item sorters you need, because it is basically proportional to the amount of flowers here. At the lowest end, if there are 20% and below of the total amount of flowers in this area, you have to build 2 modules. You have to build at least 2 modules if you want to collect all the items here. 30% and below, from 20 to 30%, you can build 3 modules and be fine. 40% and below, you can build 4 modules and be fine. 50% and below, you can build 5 modules and be fine. And this scales up. Obviously it can scale up. So if you got 100% of this, you can probably build about 10 modules and you'll be fine collecting them. But I will say that even with 8 modules, with every time this bone meal, it can produce grass, and that grass can produce seeds, right? Seeds are not a guaranteed drop, which means at this, grass can grow 100% of the area, but it will mostly only fill about 70%. But a flower drops 100% of the time, which means that that you can probably apply 10 modules running. And if you build multiple farms of this at a time, you can have the water streams guide a whole lot of items to a massive sorter. You might want to build 10 modules for each type of flower if you're planning to collect from many farms and guide them through water streams to a central collection area, right? So yeah, that's pretty much the farm. There are 2 tidbits I need to tell you that are not optional if you're going to build this the way I did. So here we have anything with the redstone on it here needs to be something that can't power the trapdoors or allow power through, like this redstone torch would power this redstone dust if it was a full opaque block, right? And for here, there is only 16 items in this hopper clock based on ilmango's timings. And here we need 2 blocks, two blocks that don't let wire through, block off the signal from combining into each other. So this is the signal for the trapdoor closing mechanism, and this is the signal for the this is the redstone pulse extender. So you don't want them to collide with each other. And by the way, in order to collect all the items here, you're with this kind of ratio, you might need 13 item sorters for this. But it's just based on how your modules are set up, right? I think it would be great if you just filled these up with blocks that won't appear in the system ever, right? And just don't put anything in the first slot and make a lot of modules up until a point, maybe 16 modules, and watch as the items flow in. If you got this all full, right? If you can run a little test of how much can be collected and how far does it go, and then after that test, you go over to the next hopper, count how many modules fill up from just one flower, and then you count how many modules go out until there's a hopper with nothing in the sorting slot. You can do those trials by yourself if you want to, but my outline should work fairly decently. And any of these modules that you don't want to be filled, right, you can just turn them into Bonemeal and then funnel them back up to the dispenser or the hopper line, right? You can basically run this infinitely if you choose to do so. But if you're just collecting flowers, or you're just collecting flowers for dyes, you can just store them in like this, like a simple item sorter. Have a good day, good night, good life, and see you all in the next one. Bye bye.